Hey everyone, you're listening to ZEN The Podcast with me, Sirg.
And me, Zenobia.
And today it's just family because the last episode we had our first ever special guest, Miss Angie, and we cannot wait to have her back. But she was so lovely and we really enjoyed it. If you didn't listen to that, it's about lesbianism and and we just had a really good time with her. And if you listen to Miss Angie,
we love you.
Yeah, we love you, and we would love to have you back. And make sure you guys listen to that the episode because we had a jolly good time.
Jolly good time. Okay.
So yeah. So how was your day, Zen?
My day was good. I had my two favorite classes, which is film and queer studies. So
yes, okay.
It's pretty lit.
Okay.
How about you?
I of course had queer studies. We had a good discussion there,
Mm-hmm.
and it was about what was it about?
It was about Bayard Rustin.
Oh yeah.
Who was one of the most influential African American political activists.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, who was openly gay.
Yes, and in African American studies class they don't teach you that.
Nope.
And it's interesting that they don't, but it is what it is at the end of the day. But we got to learn about that, and also the Harlem Renaissance. We learned about that as well. Yeah, and also had I just had math. I had a math test. She did so hard on that.
Oh my goodness! I don't know if that's something you want to disclose.
So hard at that. It's just between us, family. It took me a long time to complete though because the teacher wanted to walk back and forth behind me. But anyway, and what else did I have today? I had English. I got to read my poem. And if you don't mind, if you don't mind, I would like to read my poem right now.
Okay.
Because
let's hear it.
It touched some people's hearts and hold on. Okay, it's I'm gonna read the one that one of my new friends in that class really touched her. And I'm gonna read it for you guys. This one. And this one was actually about me. The other poems I wrote weren't about me. And if you would like to hear read the other ones, I'll post it. Just let us know, and I'll definitely post it or send it to you. So, this poem's called Guilt. I sat on the edge of my mother's bed. So many thoughts ran through my head. As my face turned red, the tears that I shed have led to this moment. Was it something I said? I know she'd rather see me wed a woman, but maybe now she'd rather see me dead.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
That was ooh. Yo.
So yeah, I have other poems, and which was really interesting. The poems I wrote were about LGBT people and people that experienced those things. Of course, that meant after you came out to your parent and you just waiting for their reaction, and that's just that's what go through some people's heads after they come out to their parent. So I wanted to relate to LGBT people and like myself, my family, my LGBT family. I wanted to relate to them. So yeah, and if you want to read the rest of my other poems,
he'll post it for you.
Yeah, I'll post it for you.
They're really good.
Yeah. So today's theme is
LGBTQ plus representation in film. The mini topic is camp.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna be talking about camp. How do you define it? Examples of camp and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And then our main topic is how LGBT characters are portrayed. What are the tropes and stuff like that we see.
Yeah, that we see in film and TV.
Yep.
We'll be back after this break. And we are back. You're listening to ZEN The Podcast, and the theme for today is LGBT representation in film and TV. So, let's start with the first topic.
Okay, so the first topic we're going to get into is camp, and this is one of my personal like favorite types of films or art forms because they're so like raw and raunchy. And I think if you're like not in the community or you are a person who doesn't really have a, I don't want to sound like condescending, but if you don't have an eye for film, I think this genre is like sometimes overlooked or like people try to throw it in the trash and ignore it.
And it's not just in film; you also see it in drag, in any type of art, really. For example, when as soon as I hear camp, because I am a RuPaul Drag Race super fan.
Goodness, super buff. Like he has all the answers for that type of stuff.
Ask me any question, I know. But when I first hear camp, I think of RuPaul. I think of drag in general, drag culture, and camp to me is when is an over exaggerated drag queen, if you can believe that, an over exaggeration of a person who's exaggerating a female, and they're portrayed comedic like, they're very humorous, and they're just very goofy and how they call it campy. So yeah. So when you first hear campy, what do you think of? What's your definition of campy?
Well, the way that I would describe camp is like an artificial representation of something that sort of has a artless style about it. That's how I would describe it. I mean, you could call it like trashy, but it's not trash. Then again, someone could see it as trashy for the sake of being trashy, but there's always some type of underlying like message, in my opinion.
Yeah, it can be trashy. I've seen movies, for example, what's it called? Baywatch. It was very campy, like very goofy, had a lot of references, very just out there, over the top. That's another example of campy. Like it can be trashy, but it can also be goofy and over the top.
I think one of the most well-known like camp movies / musicals is Rocky Horror Picture Show.
I love it.
And Natasha girl, if you listening to this, you already know because we bonded over like campy musicals and stuff. So we were like obsessed with Rocky Horror Picture Show. Hairspray. I think
I like Hairspray.
The original Hairspray though is so much campier than the remake. That's my opinion. Don't attack me. I'm just saying it's my opinion. When I saw the original Hairspray, I was like, oh my goodness, like this is a mess, but I love it. Like it's so exaggerated of like the 60s and those little like American bandstand and dance shows and all of that.
Yeah. Like
I loved it.
Yeah. When you said Rocky Horror Picture Show, I know that more. I love Rocky Horror Picture Show, and I know every song on. I have the album. I know every song. Like I really enjoyed that, and I can see the campiness in that as well.
Okay, so I printed out something from Wikipedia that describes camp. So it says it's an aesthetic style and sensibility that regards something as appealing because of its bad taste and ironic value, which I like that definition because like it just makes so much sense when you watch it. And then there's like also the question of why are a lot of gay people or queer people attracted to campy movies?
Yeah.
Like, and it's sort of, I don't want to say it reflects the community, but it reflects some of the stereotypes. You know, like for gay or queer men, they're stereotypically seen as like effeminate, outgoing, loud, raunchy. And I think
something that does not fit the norms.
Right. So I think that sometimes like we're attracted to this style of like movie, fashion, whatever, just because I don't know, maybe it's a guilty pleasure. What do you think?
I think it's because it doesn't fit the norm. The movie don't fit the norm. The movie doesn't it doesn't portray woman, man, boring, things like that. It's like it's something different that you're not used to in the film and TV world. So we are attracted to something that is out there and over the top and just different, I think.
So I know you mentioned Rocky Horror Picture Show. Have you seen any other campy films?
campy films?
Or it could be a film, it could be a musical, it could be fashion, like with trends
Put
and
me in
people.
a hot seat. A lot of fashion is campy because I've seen a lot of pictures and I'm like, what is this? Like, that's fashion? Like, they wear toilet paper everywhere. I don't see that as fashion, but I guess there's a lot of campy fashion where it's like it's and they call it avant-garde fashion, where it's like it's not normal, but it's still art. It's just art.
So like Lady Gaga when she
Yeah.
wore that dress made of meat,
Yeah.
and I think didn't Kesha wear like a garbage bag dress?
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
It's art. I think that's camp. It's art. It's art.
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I also have a list with me about some campy movies.
Okay.
It's actually called 12 Campiest Movies of All Time from the website Screen Rant.
Let's see if I know any of them.
Okay, we have The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert.
I heard of that. I actually did. I heard of that.
I have that movie, and I actually started watching it. It's really good. It sort of reminds me of an older movie called Tu Wong Fu. Thank
I heard
you.
Of that too.
Yeah, thanks for everything, Julie Newmar. That was so good.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I was sort of intrigued that for the Tu Wong Fu, they casted like I believe like all straight men to play drag queens. So they had like Patrick Swayze, the dude from Dirty Dancing. They had Wesley Snipes and the guy who voices a character from Ice Age. I forgot his name. Like John Leguizamo, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I found that interesting. I was like, should I be like I was like, I don't know how to feel about that. But it was still a good
I still
movie.
enjoy it.
Right.
What's the next one?
So the next one we have on here is Reefer Madness.
Okay, nope, never heard of that one.
Oh my goodness. I actually watched this with my friend Natasha, and at first I was like, okay, what is this about? Like, what is it? But it's like a satire on how back in the day, people were trying to link marijuana with like criminal activity and insanity. So it was really campy. Like they, especially if you watch like the movie musical version, it was like this guy who was trying to teach parents about the dangers of marijuana by saying that it caused all these things. And in the movie, there's a parent who was like, but isn't heroin also dangerous?
Yeah.
That's like the most accessible drug right now. And the guy who's supposed to be the know-it-all is like, no, it's not. Be quiet. Like,
I do that.
Right. And I was like, this is so funny because if you think about it, I think when you're watching it, you feel like, oh, okay, they're exaggerating, they're doing too much. But if you know the history and you're watching that film, it sort of becomes like ironic or funny because you're just like, they really did feel this way. But the actors and actresses are like, piping it up and trying to make it like obnoxious. Like,
I think a huge example of camp would be parody movies and spoofs, where they take a over exaggerated comedic stand at a horror movie or a regular movie or parody songs, like Scary Movie 1, they parodied Scream, and they took a whole spin and a comedic spin to Scream, and I think that's a huge example of camp.
parody movies.
Yeah, parody movies.
Have you seen Vampire Suck?
Oh my god, I hate that movie. I hate it with a passion. That's the only movie that I actually turned off in the middle.
You hated it?
Oh my god.
When I was younger, I thought that was so funny.
Oh my god. I never turned off a movie ever in my life. So quickly. And I was a super fan of Twilight, so I'm like, what is this?
So was I. And you know what? That movie allowed me to see how, like, messy Twilight was. Like, I was like, you know what? I am a diehard Twilight fan, but at the same time, they do have a very valid point.
No, I wasn't diehard, but I was really into Twilight, and then I saw that movie, I'm like, bitch, what is this? What is this? Turn off, please.
I think
This movie's so ridiculous.
another one that I thought about recently was, I don't know if you've ever heard of a Harry Potter musical on YouTube. When I watched that, I was like, this is so campy. And I think it would be like identified as low camp, not because it's like bad or something, but just because it's not mainstream. So it's like a musical for Harry Potter, but they oversaturate the characters like being themselves. Like Malfoy is this annoying kid who nobody likes, and everybody just sort of like not necessarily picks on him, but they just ignore him, and he keeps acting out for attention. And Ron is like obnoxious and just like always wants to drive home the fact that he's best friends with Harry Potter and stuff like that.
A very exaggerated take on the characters.
Right.
Yeah. And
I think like putting it all together, like you start to realize that some of the things you enjoy might even be like campy and stuff like that.
I'm sure a lot of things I like are campy.
The number one movie that they have is Showgirls.
I heard of that.
Which I watched part of that, and let me tell you, I can definitely say that movie is campy. It is so I don't want to say fake, but it's so
exaggerated.
Goodness.
That's the word that you just described, camp. Exaggerated.
Yeah, and it was just so, it was over the top because, I mean, I think their original, and I think this is one of the films that's like not meant to be campy, but it comes off as being a camp film.
Now, would you say camp is another word for like cheesy?
No.
There's a difference.
I would definitely say there's a difference. Like when I think of cheesy, I think of like the old Batman show.
Oh yeah.
Where they had Batman running around in this really awful costume, and Robin's there talking about leaping lizards.
Batman riding sharks and
stuff. Now that is cheesy, and I think in one of the articles they drove home the point to say that camp doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad movie, or that it's a cheesy movie. It's just
a cheap movie.
Right. It's just a different type of art form. You know, so you could have a movie that's just really bad in general, like Troll 2, for example. Now, some people might consider a movie like Troll 2 to be camp. I personally don't see it that way. I just think it's one of those movies that is so bad you love to watch.
Troll 2. Is that that's a cartoon, right?
No, it's a 80s movie.
Oh, I was thinking of Trolls, the cartoon movie.
Oh, no.
I'm like, can you see cartoon movies as a camp movie? Can cartoon movies be camp?
Now that's interesting because
cartoons are already exaggerated, so
maybe, you know, I think if the right approach is taken to it, or maybe if you have the right eye to identify like a camp movie, I think, yeah, maybe, why not, you know.
And I saw on the list, it said Batman, the movie, somewhere.
Oh my goodness, I wouldn't be surprised.
Because that's the movie I know. I was like, okay. Batman
I think it was Batman the movie, yes. Yeah. The original one with Michael Keaton.
With Joker.
Oh,
I was thinking of Lego Batman. The movie. But I did see Batman the movie too. Yeah, it's campy.
Yeah, you know what? I could see it. Like, it was definitely oversaturized with like like I love Jack Nicholson and how he portrays like the Joker, but watching that, I could see it as a camp film.
Okay.
Sort of. There's like an artificialness to it a little bit.
Okay. We will be back after this break.
And we are back. You're listening to ZEN The Podcast, and now it's time for a segment we do called What Did You Find?
What did you find?
So we tried to relate the things that we look for to the overall theme, and today the overall theme is LGBTQ plus representation in film
And TV.
and TV.
Yes.
So
I guess I'll be first.
yeah, what did you find?
I found this is kind of an old story back in August, but have you heard of the movie Jungle Cruise?
No.
It's a Disney movie. Don't know what it's about, but it's a Disney movie, and it says Disney is being criticized for casting straight comic Jack Whitehall as very camp gay character. So what do you think about that? He is straight. He's straight, he's a comedian, and he's supposed to play as a gay character in this movie called Jungle Cruise. What do you think about that?
Well, my initial question is, what is this movie about? But
I can search up what it's about. Now, my thing is now reading that article, which is on IndieWire. It says camp gay character, which in my head goes stereotypical gay character. And that's not good.
That's a good point.
Yeah. That's not good.
Which sort of ties into what I found. But what I think about that is people have this really weird habit of hiring like non-LGBT people to play like a gay role. And we see this a lot. And for me, it sort of bothers me because I'm like, you have actual gay people who can play an actual gay person, and I wouldn't have a problem with that even if their role is like stereotypical. But to cast a straight person and put them in like a campy, like if it is legitimately a gay role, like if they actually came up with the idea to have a gay character in their movie. Because once again, I mean, not to play the devil's advocate, but it could be a case of where the person who's writing this thinks that that character is supposed to be gay. But what I'm saying is, if Disney genuinely has like a gay character and they're casting a straight person to play a gay character, then I do sort of have a problem with that.
Me personally, and I had the same opinion at first, but when I heard someone said on YouTube, they was like, it's not. I mean, there's not as much open gay actors that we can really think about, and at the end of the day, they are actors. So my issue really is how they're going to portray the gay character. Now that I think about it, because he's straight, okay, but if he's going to play a gay character, don't be stereotypical and bash the gay community. That's my whole thing about it.
I agree with that.
Like, I don't really have a huge issue with a straight actor playing a gay character. It's just if they play the gay character in a stereotypical way, then that's a problem.
So this sort of relates into that. So remember High School Musical? You may know where I'm about to go with this.
Yes.
The guy who played Ryan.
Yeah.
Was he gay in real life? Because when what you just said reminded me of Ryan from High School Musical, and I'm thinking like, you know,
his name is Lucas Gabriel.
Yeah, something Lucas Gabriel, something like that. But I've always wanted to know. I don't know why I've never like looked it up, because I feel like that.
Either, and I always wondered too.
Right. But that's what I want to know, because I feel like that sort of ties into what
stereotypical.
Yeah.
And they didn't make it known that he is gay in the movie, but it's kind of
because it's satirized.
Yeah.
You could even say that High School Musical is sort of camp.
It definitely is. It says, here's an article. It says, milk roll changed my life. Also, I'm not gay. That's his quote. All right, so he's not.
So he's not. Okay, so then, yeah, for me, I guess it bothers me. Am I going to
go? That's understandable.
Am I gonna go and like protest or threaten to? No, but it sort of bothers me just a little bit. To answer your question.
Zen, what did you find?
Okay. So I went online, did a little research, and I found this list from theadvocate.com that talks about the most toxic Hollywood tropes for LGBTQ characters.
Now, what is tropes?
Tropes is like a stereotype or a stereotypical role.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna go through all of these because a lot of them tie into like when we get into more detail later in the show.
Yeah, we'll definitely post it. We'll post these what did you find on Instagram so you guys can check it out yourselves.
Yeah. So the one that the one that stood out to me was the bury your queer woman.
Bury your queer woman.
Yes. So there is a long and running stereotype that if there's a lesbian character on the show, you know she's gonna die.
Oh, wow.
This happens in the L Word multiple times. This happens in the movie The Children's Hour from, I think it was the 60s.
They did it in Curse of Chucky. Curse of Chucky? Yeah, Curse of Chucky. Remember? Did you watch the movie?
Oh, yeah. They did it in Curse of Chucky, too. It was so bad, I forgot. So, they did it in Buffy, the TV series, when they killed off Willow's girlfriend. That one stood out to me because I don't understand why, like, the lesbian character or the queer character, especially the woman, has to die. I don't get it. It's either she gets killed or she is, like, sick and ends up dying. It's really, like, I would like to see a show where no lesbian or queer woman characters die or get killed.
We will be back after the break. We are back. You're listening to ZEN The Podcast with me, Sirg.
And me, Zenobia.
And for more coverage and to get notified when our next episode will air, make sure you follow us on Instagram at ZEN The Podcast. In the future, we will expand our social media presence on other platforms, for example, Twitter and Facebook. And we might even do Snapchat.
Hey.
We thank you for the support and continue listening. Continue listening.
Okay, so now we've made it to the topic of the day, or our main topic, which is how LGBT characters are portrayed in film and TV. So, what are your thoughts on how we're portrayed?
I feel like, is there ever the main character being an LGBT character and it's not about their sexuality? That's a good question.
Ooh. Wow, I actually have to sit back and think about that.
Like, is this like the show itself has a main character that's LGBT and the show is not about their sexuality? Is there ever a show like that or a movie? As I think about it,
there was one, but the main character, the only thing that came to my mind right now was this really, really unknown movie called Vampire Wars.
Okay.
And the movie itself is about a group of people who are fighting against like these rabid vampires, and one of the members on the team is a vampire themselves. It's a girl. And some of the people on the team like discriminate against her because they're like, oh, you're one of them, you know, you're the enemy, we don't even know why you're here. And at the end of the movie, one of the girls who was discriminating against her ended up hooking up with her. And I was like,
so
wow.
She's the main character?
But here's where it gets tricky, because the main character is this guy. But at the same time, I don't think anybody cared about him. So I didn't see him as the main character, but I feel like he maybe was supposed to be the main character. But I feel like because they were a collective and a team, it was sort of like Guardians of the Galaxy. All of them were like equal to me.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that's the only thing I can think of, and I'm not even sure if that counts or not.
I was thinking of, I was kind of thinking of Moonlight, but again, it is about his sexuality.
Yeah.
Somewhat, it's about his life, but sexuality is part of his life. So, yeah, I can't really think of a movie or TV show that has a main character who happens to be gay, and they don't. It's not, the story's not about that. I can't. Yeah.
Unless it's Steven Universe. Steven Universe is really good. They don't for me, the premise of the show isn't about sexuality. It's just about togetherness and like family and protecting your loved ones, protecting the world. That's the premise to me. I didn't really see it as, oh, this is like a story about someone coming to terms with their sexuality now. But I don't know if that counts either. Like the ones that I'm thinking of, I don't know if they actually qualify.
If any of you guys know any character in any TV show or movie that happens to be queer, let us know either by going to our Instagram, or if we have a Twitter or Snapchat or Facebook, let us know. Also, you can email us at zenthepodcast@gmail.com. But yeah. So, how are LGBT characters portrayed in TV and movies? What do you think? How, like, what comes to mind?
What's interesting when I think about how they're portrayed in like film and TV, the first thought that takes me back is old cartoons.
Okay.
So I love old cartoons, even the racist ones and the problematic ones. I will sit down and watch wartime propaganda cartoons.
Okay.
But I watch it to educate myself and see like what people's views were back in the day. And so what you'll notice if you watch a lot of like older cartoons, especially like if you watch like Ub Iwerks, who was like one of Disney's animators and cartoonists, he has a lot of gay stereotypical characters in his cartoons. If you go on YouTube and you search up Ub Iwerks, what is that? Mary Had a Little Lamb. You'll see this scene where this character named Percy comes up to the front of the class for a show and tell, and he starts dancing. And the way that he is drawn, he's drawn like very effeminate. He has like feminine hands, and his lips are red, and he has like curly hair with a big, huge red bow tie.
Okay.
And he like twirls his hands up in like a sort of way that a person watching it who knows stereotypes and stuff like that will be like, okay, this is supposed to be some type of gay comic relief character. And when he's done doing his dance, the whole class is like, ooh. Like, and I was, when I was younger watching it, I was like, what the hell is that supposed to mean? And then I kept seeing it in some of Iwerk's other cartoons. There was one called Sinbad, and you had a pirate character who was very effeminate, who like sashayed out of the hallway. And then they threw knives at him. And I was like, oh my god. Like,
now, what is the cartoon called?
If you search up like Ub Iwerks.
Yeah.
It's UBIWERKS. But that was one of the first forms of like I guess you could say LGBT representation that I found. If I can probably screenshot it tonight and like send it to you so that way we can post it.
Yes.
But
we'll definitely post it on Instagram.
Yeah, that to me is the first thing that came to mind, because that was my first introduction with like, okay, seeing an LGBT character portrayed on screen. And that was when I was like, maybe like 7? Because I grew up on those old cartoons. And then as I got older, I understood what they meant and what they were trying to say and the type of person they were trying to reflect.
Another form of LGBT characters portrayed in movies and TV shows, bisexuals being villains. Villains.
Common.
Why are they always the bad people? They're always the sneaky ones. They always the ones that want to kill somebody. They're never monogamous. Very persuasive and conning. Then that's kind of them portraying their bisexual nature, because they can sleep with whoever they want to get by.
I definitely see what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
And in the show Gotham, like,
oh yeah,
you remember the character Barbara, who was with Jim Gordon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, her and another character Tabitha, they had a relationship.
Yeah, and then it just disappeared
by the recent. But how did they portray Barbara? They portrayed her as a scheming bitch, basically.
Crazy person.
Yeah,
too.
A crazy. And that was another one of the stereotypes on the list from The Advocate. They had the crazy or psycho lesbian or psycho queer woman. It's the angry lesbian.
Yeah, it's always mad. That's another thing. Yeah, always mad. Always hate the men. Anti-man type thing. Yeah.
And then they have. So I'm gonna go through like the list.
Yeah.
So I already mentioned the barrier queer woman. So the first one that they had on the website was the gay best friend.
Oh my gosh.
And you know
that was a movie.
Yes, it was. But you know that this stereotype is played out. Like, y'all, if you look at any 90s movie, I guarantee you there's gonna be some gay character who is with the in crowd of the popular girls or something. Or you'll see this person, like in the movie, what is it? Fat Girls with Monique. Their coworker was like this oversaturized gay character with the earrings, and then he was speaking like in some fake Ebonic dialect, talking about, yes, girl, you are, and this was a white dude, and he was up there like, yes, girl, you already know my man don't play that, and blah, 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 and I was just like, oh my goodness, is this supposed to be the gay comic relief? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah, and why do the gays have to be comic relief? That's another thing. Why do the gay character have to be comic relief?
And that's on the list. Queer people are a joke. That's one of the tropes that a lot of Hollywood movies and TV shows do that. And especially like with 80s movies, that was like the running gag to think someone was gay. And it's annoying because I'm like, someone's sexuality is not a joke.
Exactly.
And they would use that, especially like if there was a situation where someone was on a blind date and found out that their date is like a man in drag or a transgender woman. That would be like the butt of every joke.
Yeah.
One of my favorite movies when I was growing up was Ace Ventura, but it was very transphobic because the gist of the movie is like Jim Carrey's character, Ace Ventura, is like this obnoxious pet detective, and there was a transgender character who played like I think lieutenant or something, and it was revealed that she like grew her hair out to be her authentic self. And so they basically like exposed her, like they ripped her shirt open and like turned her around so everybody could see her genitalia. And this was used as comedy, like, and it's crazy because when I was younger, I was like, oh my God. And then when I got older, I was like, oh my God. Like it went from that comedic feel to that cringy where you're like, oh, did I really laugh at that when I was younger? It's problematic. And then I have to ask myself, like, is it wrong for me to like laugh at something like that? Because I feel like, you know, some people will say stuff like, oh, well, they didn't know any better back then, blah, blah, blah. But does that still make it okay?
Right.
And that's the question that you have to ask.
Yeah, and there was a running gag of the transgender females. Transgender females in movies. I saw a movie, I can't remember what it was, but there was a gym teacher who was transgender female, and she was talking to the character, and she had her leg open on her desk, and her balls popped out. You're trying not to.
Sergio, that just Oh my
Laugh.
goodness. You just went straight to the point. You didn't even try to like sugarcoat it. You just, oh my goodness.
It seems funny at the moment, but you have to think about it, and are they being transphobic?
I think it's funny based on the context.
Yeah.
Like, of course, like, the context matters, the plot matters, like, I mean, and, you know, people think that if I get offended by something that I don't have a sense of humor, y'all, I watch In Living Color where they literally make fun of gay black men on the show. Like, you know, I have a sense of humor. Not everything I'm gonna be like, oh my god,
seriously.
this is
I can't believe they're doing that.
You know,
wow.
Like some of it is funny. I'm not gonna lie. Like I love shows like In Living Color and Saturday Night Live where they do like make fun of stereotypes and stuff like that. It's just, you know, I also acknowledge that sometimes it can be problematic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes we have to have a sense of humor and not take everything so seriously, because the creators, they might not, like deep down, some of them might not be homophobic. They're just playing a joke. They're just trying to be funny. It depends on, like you said, the context of it. And if you can laugh at yourself, let's laugh. But if it's meant to be offensive, then we can talk about it and try to change what's going on, you know.
So then some other tropes they had on the website were transgender hooker with a heart of gold, which I see that a lot. The closeted jock, they talked about the movie. The Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Also Glee.
We already talked about the murderous bisexual. Bury Your Queer Woman. All lesbians want kids, which is something that when I first saw that, I was like, well, is that a bad thing? But I think they're just saying that it's like overused.
And it's a stereotype.
The depraved homosexual, which is like, you know, Alfred Hitchcock had some type of obsession with making like queer characters the villains. So in movies like Rope or Strangers on a Train, he would make the characters like murderous homosexuals, even though I think Rope was based on a true story of like this gay couple who were killing people to prove their intellectual superiority.
Now, were they 2 women or 2 men?
They were 2 men.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you know. Then they have Girl on Girl is Hot, which is
yep. Here you go.
Every single like
Girls Gone Wild.
Oh my god, I hate that. Literally, I could be watching like a really good movie and then all of a sudden they'll just have like 2 girls making out and like a dude in a window. Oh my god, this is so hot. And I'm like,
and what era is that in? You see that?
Oh my goodness, you'll see that.
I see that a lot in early 2000s.
Early 2000s, 90s movies like Cruel Intentions, Wild Things, stuff like that.
Jennifer's Body.
Yeah, you know, I didn't want to say it, but yeah. The psycho lesbian trope, we talked about that. And the sissy villain, which Disney's guilty of this.
Oh yeah.
If you think about characters like the captain or the leader of the voyage in Pocahontas, it was basically the overweight white dude with the pink hat and the pink suits and the, you know, effeminateness about him and the dog that he always carried with him like he was Paris Hilton. You know, Disney is guilty of this a lot. And Jafar and Aladdin, King Candy and Wreck-It Ralph.
Oh yeah.
Like it's this stereotype that the villain is like a sissy or effeminate, you know. Then they talked about like the stereotype of, trigger warning, prison rape.
Boondocks.
Yes. Okay. Because I didn't know if you watched that show, and you remember the episode, The Booty Warrior.
Yes.
Where
one of my favorite episodes.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, that episode like.
And Boondocks can be very problematic. I love it.
It's one of those shows where I love it, but I'm also not gonna sit here and act like there were no problems.
I know.
Like they definitely did have like some. I would say borderline homophobic stuff in there. You gay, especially Riley,
Yes.
who ironically is my favorite character because he just reminds me of some of the people that I know in my family. But yeah, then they also talk about erasing bisexual, which the main example they give is like what's her name? Like Piper from Orange is the New Black, who has been in a relationship with men and women, but she never calls herself bisexual. They just try to act like being bisexual doesn't exist.
Well, when you say that, it's like they never said that she's bi. That reminds me of Arrow. Sarah Lance, I think it's Sarah Lance, Black Canary. She dated Arrow at some point, and then when she went to the League of Assassins, she started dating Ra's al Ghul's daughter, and they didn't really say that she's bi, but they kind of
like insinuated.
They kind of really heavily insinuated, because after that she started dating women and flirting with women, so it was definitely clear, but I guess how you said, they never said she's bi. And yeah.
Then you have, of course, the unsettling gender reveal, which is like something like we already talked about Ace Ventura, but also the movie like Crying Game and stuff like that.
Like, what? Can we go deeper in that? What does that really
So the unsettling gender reveal, basically, there's like a character who is I don't want to say pretending, but the movie makes it seem like they're pretending to be a certain gender
when they're
really like something else. So in the Crying Game, I never watched it, but the movie was popular because people were disgusted back then to find out that one of the characters was actually like transgender. So it started this stereotype that, if you're a transgender character, then you're lying about who you are and you're not being honest, this, that, and the
trying
third.
to sneak around and play people.
So the unsettling gender reveal sort of mirrors that, where it's like, oh, I'm disgusted that you're not who you said you were, blah, blah, blah.
That's so wrong.
Yeah.
On so many levels.
That one is really problematic.
Yeah.
Then the promiscuous queer, which is, of course this applies to bisexual women, but recently I've been seeing it applied to like bisexual men and gay men, especially like in the show Queer as Folk.
Oh yes.
They make it seem like gay men are extremely promiscuous and just don't care about having safe sex and this, that, and the third. Then they have the coming out trope, which is like, I've been seeing this a lot, and at first I was like, oh, but then it's like, can we come up with something else? Like,
The movie that comes to mind is Love, Simon.
Yes.
I like
that movie.
I really love that movie. And they had a part where the straight people started coming out to their parents, and that was really hilarious to me. They was like, Mom, I got something to say to you.
Straight.
I'm straight.
I've known for such a long time.
And my favorite part was when the black mom was like, excuse me? You're
you
straight?
were not brought up that way.
But that was a very hilarious part. There was a movie called Alex Strangelove.
I feel like I've heard of that.
Alex Strangelove is a movie on Netflix. I'm sure it's still on Netflix. And it's about a boy. I thought the whole movie was about him being bi. And then, and spoiler alert, by the way, you should go watch it. You guys should watch it. In the movie, they talked about bisexuality and how he could be bi, but at the end of the movie, he's like, I'm gay. And that shocked me, because I'm like, why can't he just be bi?
Right.
Why can't he be bi?
You have the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I was kind of disappointed. Why can't, like, there's a lot of movies like that where they have a girlfriend, but they have feelings with a guy, feelings for a guy, and then they end up being gay.
They skip over the fact that they could, like, more than one gender.
You can't be bi. You have to be either one. So, and I was really disappointed, but it was a good movie either way. It was a very funny and awkward movie. Very relatable. But yeah.
And then the last one they have on the list is Everyone is Straight.
Oh, yeah.
Which, at first I was like, what? But then when you look at a lot of shows today, some of them don't have any queer characters at all, or they want to act like they don't exist. Like, everyone in the world is straight, and All Is Well. Like you
What-
see a
what
lot
I'm-
of stuff like this.
What I'm thinking of is what I'm thinking of right now is like slasher movies. I can't really think of one slasher movie, for example, Friday the 13th, where there's any gay characters. They're all straight, and I think movies like that, their plan was to just kill off people, so they don't really think about character development. But as I think about it, were there any gay characters in slasher movies? I don't think so. And we're gonna talk about this. We have a Halloween special. We're gonna talk about that, but
not that I can think, not off the top of my head. But I think that people could do better in portraying us, like, on screen. And the first step is get people who actually are queer or LGBT to play a queer or LGBT character. Because there's a movie, and it was a good movie. You know, I gave it a chance. It was called, I think the original title was called About Ray. Then they renamed it to 3 Generations. And it was about a trans boy who had to get his mother and father to sign a form so he could begin taking his hormones. And I think he also was trying to get like surgery or something. But the character was played by a cisgender heterosexual female. And I was like, you can't tell me that you couldn't find a transgender male to play a transgender male.
You know how specific that is, though? I'm thinking about it. Can I think of any actor that is transgender? I can't.
It's hard. Know what? This would be an excellent opportunity to give a platform to transgender actors and actresses out there.
I do agree.
And you know, people have talent. It's just that people want to stick with a name. Like you know the person who played them. I think it was Elle Fanning or something like that. It was Elle Fanning.
Like they hire household names.
Yes.
That's the first thing they go for.
Yeah, they don't even bother to think, well, let's try having an actual LGBT person to play this role. And they do the same thing with like characters of certain ethnicities. Like when they had Scarlett Johansson playing an Asian character in Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah.
Like, come on now. Like, it's 2018. We need to move past this. Oh, we can't find anybody to fill in these roles, so we have to stick with household. No, you don't. Like,
open the doors.
Exactly.
Bring in new people, new faces. And we will be back after this break. Hello everyone, welcome back to ZEN The Podcast, and unfortunately we have run out of time.
Yep, but don't worry, because we'll be back next week with more things to talk about. So make sure you follow us on Instagram at ZEN The Podcast. Turn on your notifications so you'll be notified when we release our next episode.
And let us know on any of our posts on Instagram or DM us. Let us know if you want us to talk about a certain topic. And if you want to guest star on our show, let us know.
Yep.
Yeah. And we thank you so much for listening to ZEN The Podcast with me, Serge.
And me, Zenobia.
And we hope you have a wonderful, wonderful week. And yeah.
We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.